everyone, good day. Me and my group, we're going to present to you our case study. So, it is entitled The Impact of Globalization in Teaching Profession, the Global Teacher. So, this discussion will be divided into 6 parts. So, me, myself, and I will going to discuss the objective of the study and the introduction. So the rest of the parts will be discussed by my group mates. So they will going to discuss the data analysis, the finding, the discussion of the study, conclusion, and so with the recommendation. So without further ado, I am going to discuss to you our objectives. So we have 3 objectives of this study. So as we all know, several studies were conducted on globalization in the Philippines. However, the impact of globalization on the teaching profession were partially included in those studies that generally examine the effects of globalization on education. So furthermore, there are studies on a combination of issues such as international globalization, global education, teaching profession, and teacher education. On the other hand, considering that globalization could affect each country differently, in-depth studies should be conducted in the Philippines to better understand the effect of globalization on teaching profession, since it became important to have qualified teacher with the emphasis of globalization. Various reform were implemented. Various reform were implemented in teacher training system in the Philippines, similar to other countries. So teachers who are responsible for training productive individuals for the society are the practitioner of educational policies and influence the outcomes of educational policies. Thus, this means the need for improvement in teacher education is a current issue, and teacher with global qualification should be trained to raise the quality of education that faces global challenges. It is necessary to assess the challenges implemented in Filipino teacher education system due to globalization. Examining the effects of globalization in teacher or on Filipino teacher education system and the qualification and the roles of teacher in resulting to global teacher profile. So, based on the view that those who could feel and observe the effect of globalization on teaching profession in minute detail would be the practitioner itself. The main objectives of this study, of our study, was to examine the impact of globalization on the teaching profession based on the views of the teacher itself. Okay, so right now let's move forward to the introduction of our study. The impact, again, the title of the study is The Impact of Globalization in Teaching Profession, so the global teacher. So we all know that globalization is considered as the international, intercultural, economic, political, cultural, and social integration of, and defined as the concentration of global intermural relation induced by modernism, and where distant settlements were interrelated and local events are shaped by distance events. In the prominent topic in meeting scientific conference in various fields are the media, and its popularity is constantly rising. It could be argued rather that globalization is constantly present and continuous its development and interaction, even though its pace varies due to social challenges or changes or certain economic processes. One of the factors that change the rate of globalization, which existed since the beginning of human history, is the rapid advance in information, communications, and transportation technologies. Due to these advances, communication and interaction between individuals and even societies have improved, and the world have turned into a single space. However, this does not mean global unity. That is downsizing to a single space. This is the awareness and communication of individuals with different traits and lifestyle with each other.
Data collection and analysis data was being collected with the interview form designed for the present study. One of the authors visited the school to interview the teachers, explain the objective of the study, and volunteering teachers who considered that they could answer these questions. After examining the questions on the interview form, participated in the study. But somehow, some teachers didn't volunteer or participate about the survey, stating that they would not able to answer the questions. Since the teachers who volunteered to participate in the study wanted to fill into the interview forms at an appropriate time to provide comprehensive responses. The author waited up to 2 hours in certain schools to collect the forms in certain school. The interview forms were left with the teachers and collected by the authors at a later date. Descriptive and content analysis were conducted to analyze the study data. In the analysis of the data, initially the answers provided by the participants' teacher on the interview forms were coded based on their essence of their statements. An interview was conducted to a number of combined elementary and secondary teachers in public schools. The following questions included per the followings. So, question number 1. How do you define the concept of global teacher? And it follows question number 2. What do you think about change that were implemented on teacher education system due to the globalization? Question number 3. What are your views on the positive and negative effect of globalization on teaching education profession? Number 4 would be, in your opinion, what are the changes that occurred in teaching rules due to the globalization? And the last but not the least, in your opinion, what are the changes that occurred in teaching qualifications due to the globalization?
Based on Figure 1, it was observed that a majority of the teachers defined the global teachers are teachers who are open to innovations, follow the changes and development, adapt to and adopt these changes, and improve themselves. Furthermore, the global teacher was defined as a teacher who is competent in teaching technology and information technologies, possesses universal educational institutional qualities, open to differences, global citizen who thinks universally, adopts the universal, possesses the values of his or her own culture with an active and participatory learning approach, shares knowledge, and is objective and model for the society. On Figure 2, teachers are viewed changes implemented in the Philippine education system within the context of globalization were grouped under 2 themes, the positive and negative views. Teachers mostly emphasize negative views. Teachers stated that the implemented changes were insufficient. The education system in other countries were imitated without any adaptation to the condition of the Philippines. In addition to these negative opinions, certain teachers indicated that implemented changes were positive. The technologies were prioritized, certain projects were conducted in the context of globalization, changes were implemented to train contemporary teachers. The changes aimed to train an innovative and inquisitive teacher model. Figure 3. Teachers' view on the effects of globalization on teacher training process were grouped under two themes, the positive and the negative impacts. The majority of the teachers stated that globalization positively affected the teacher training process. Teachers indicated that globalization made it possible to follow the developments in training process. However, the adoption of education system implemented in different countries without adaptation to the condition of the Philippines, and the teachers also emphasized that with globalization teachers or pre-service teacher and students could experience adaptation problems to this process. The dependency on the technology increase was devalued as a result. Figure 4. Based on Figure 4, the teacher's view on the impact of globalization on the role of teachers were grouped under three themes, the active teacher roles, global citizen roles, and the negative effects as shown on the figure. Based on Figure 5, the teacher views on the impact of globalization on teacher qualifications were grouped under two themes, professional and individual qualification. The majority of teachers expressed opinions on the theme of professional qualifications.
The impact of globalization on teaching profession, the global teacher. Today, globalization is considered as a method where applications produced by Western countries based on their own specification are copied and implemented or enforced out of their original context. From this point of view, globalization is a process that can be quite damaging to the local and even to a certain cultural forms. In fact, when an individual with a certain culture is educated in an education system copied from a different culture, the individual is alienated from her or his own culture and values, and the individual ends up despising the lifestyle of her or his society. Therefore, it is necessary to blend and synchronize the local and global perspective to achieve a global perspective on the teacher training process and to preserve national and spiritual values and culture by considering both the inevitability and the positive negative effects of globalization. In other words, it is necessary to equip teachers with a characteristic of their culture, while training the teachers with the qualifications and competencies required by globalization is a complex phenomenon that aims the integration of different societies based on a common ground and a cultural pluralism, but it does not aim the nations to lose their characteristics. Teachers who are required to live in a global age should be global citizens with a global vision, ideas, and knowledge while retaining the nutrition provided by their own culture, and in return enrich their culture. Thus, it is the duty of a teachers to protect the identity of their individuals for the conditions of the globalization. Thank you.
In the present study, based on the views of teachers, the global teacher could be defined as a global citizen and a universal teacher who possesses the qualifications and competencies required by globalization, knows about global changes and developments, and improves herself or himself accordingly. It was determined in the study that the roles of teachers differentiated as a result of globalization. The result of the study observed that globalization caused differences in qualifications of the teachers, and thus, teachers should be open to innovations in the profession, to improve themselves by adapting the changes, to possess technological competency, creative, productive, and practical, collaborative, have a positive and constructive approach, adopt lifelong learning philosophy, love the profession, utilize visual presentations in the classroom, be responsive to students' needs and a role model, competent in communications, offer opportunities for students to experience their freedom and improve their self-esteem. On the other hand, it can be argued that they should possess a global awareness, be fluent in foreign languages, protect their national values, have a critical approach, be open for criticism, have an adaptive, virtuous, social, driven, far-sighted, and determined personality. Globalization affects the teacher training process both positively and negatively, similar to its impact on the other fields. Based on the present study findings, the majority of the teachers stated that globalization positively affected teacher training process. According to teachers, the positive effects could be listed as follows. Globalization allows for follow-up of developments in different countries, respect for differences, universality. Globalization increased teacher qualifications, sharing of information and applications, technological advances, and resulted in an innovative and successful education. However, in addition to the above-mentioned positive effects, teachers stated that it destroyed local values, alienated the teachers from their own values and culture. The education systems applied in different countries were adopted without adaptation, caused the possibility of adaptation problems that could be experienced by teachers, pre-service teachers, and students alike, increased dependence on technology, and reduced the value of the teaching profession.
Recommendations. Based on the findings of the present study and the requirement to equip teachers with global competencies, it can be recommended that teachers should follow up global educational and technological changes and adopt to the pace of these changes. Adopt these changes in educational activities and improve themselves by participating in various vocational courses. Teachers can conduct national and international projects. They can improve their ability to utilize technological tools actively. They can enable the adoption of national and universal values by their students by preserving their national values and embracing their international values. For pre-service teachers to acquire global competencies, Filipino teacher training system should be reconstructed by adopting global teacher training system after a comprehensive analysis based on the conditions in the Philippines and the Filipino culture and infrastructure work are completed, and the pre-service teachers should be educated in application-oriented new generation faculties of education. Training opportunities should be provided in countries with developed education systems for each pre-service teacher, and teaching practice courses can be conducted in a domestic school 1 semester and another in 2 semesters on the senior year. Thus, both the awareness of pre-service teachers about global education could be raised and the alienation from their own culture could be prevented. To improve the global awareness of pre-service teachers, a course on global problems and events could be designated as compulsory course. Students' clubs could be organized to promote education global awareness. The fundamental achievements detailed specified in teacher training curriculum could be integrated with global topics.